Hey guys, dog owners, puppy lovers everywhere. This is Marc Goldberg. Thank you so much for joining me for just a few minutes today. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about the e-collar, training dogs, and the book that I wrote with the Monks of New Skete. Let me drop a copy of it in right here. This is the hardcover edition of The Art of Training Your Dog. It also comes in soft cover like this one, but also Kindle, Audible, and iBooks. So here's the main thing, I guess, that I want you to know about e-collars for today's topic. And that is that it's a wonderful tool for communicating with a dog, but that's exactly what it is. It's a communication tool. The reality is that there is no magic in technology. You want to know where the magic is? It's in three places that I can think of right now. First, it's in the hands of the trainer. If you do it right, you can communicate with the dog and deepen the relationship, because dog training is not as much about behavior. I know that's where we get lost. We get lost in the idea that I need to control behavior. I need to stop problem behaviors. I need to get heel, sit down, stay, come, place. And it's not like you don't. You do need to get all of those things. But that's not where the magic relies. The magic relies in the relationship. And to create the relationship with the e-collar, you need several things. And one of them is you need these hands, because you need to be able to operate the tool correctly. The next place that the e-collar and the training of the dog and the relationship is built is in the heart. The heart, because this is an emotional connection that you have to the dog. And if you are a good dog person, if you are a dog lover, if you are somebody who really wants to get the most out of that relationship with your dog, it's not so much about heel, sit down, stay, come. I mean, the dog needs to know those things. I don't dispute that. You drop a glass, there's glass every place. It's really convenient to be able to tell the dog, you go over there, lay down, wait for me. Let me clean that stuff up, and then we can go about our business afterwards. So yeah, they do need to know that stuff. But relationship is not built on commands. Relationship is built on the heart. So this is an emotional connection. So the three things that you need to train a dog: good pair of hands, you know, that are neither overly permissive nor cruel. The next thing you need is a heart connection to that dog. And that's the second of three places where the relationship with the dog is built. And then the next one is, that's my dog Friday. I'll tell you a little bit about her in an upcoming video. But the next thing you need is the dog. You need to appeal to the dog's brain, the dog's heart, the dog's instincts. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of that right now. What has fascinated me since I was a child was not what tool am I going to use to train the dog. And I've trained dogs with almost every tool that you can imagine. And in fact, if you go back to my childhood, I'm a gentleman of 60 years. And I started as a child bride in dogs. So I go back to 1969. And I could tell you, since that time, I have been training dogs. Well, let me just interject this. I was a child bride to dog training. Okay, maybe I should just stop a quick second, tell you that story, and then pick it up about tools from there. I had to beg a whole lot when I was a child in order to get that first dog. Nothing is more relentless than an 11-year-old dogless boy who wants a dog. So when my mother got ill with pneumonia, but she did not choose to be hospitalized, she stayed home because she had two little kids, myself and my sister. What happened was I was in her ear as she was passing out every night. I want a dog, I want a dog, I want a dog, I want a dog. And eventually she just broke down. She said, when I'm better, oh my God, let me sleep. When I'm better, I'll get you a dog. And so I got my first Sheltie, Gus. Here's a picture of him right here. Here's Gus and I in about 1972. He would have been about 3 and me about 14 years old. And I loved that dog. He was my best friend. Training him never really occurred to me because he was a puppy and he followed me everywhere. I never had any problem with him until he turned a teenager, 5 months of age. You know, it's right kind of the breaking point of the teenage years in dogs. And that's where a little bit of self exploration, he came into his own at that point. and he quit following me everywhere, and he ran into the street and got hit by a car, a blue Volkswagen, right in front of me. And I still remember it. But fortunately, that dog didn't. Not only did he not get, he was with me until I was about 28 years old. Can you imagine? A dog takes you from 11 to 28, like from the age of innocence all the way into adulthood. It was an amazing privilege to have had that dog. But my mother, in her infinite wisdom, sent me and Gus off to dog training school where we took all the prizes. And he did learn a lot of things, and I began to really develop my obsession with dogs. But since that time, I've trained with choke chains, prong collars, slip leads, every form of tool available. And what I think the most important thing that I learned was that it really isn't so much about the tool, it's about how you use it, and it's about the connection that you have with the dog. The reality of it is the dog is probably the most unique animal that humankind has ever come into contact with. Now I know that the pig has fed humanity, as has the chicken, the horse has provided transportation and farming equipment, but it's only the dog that we sleep in bed with, other than the cat. And the reality is the cat doesn't really care what you do as long as you're warm and comfortable. But the dog has the distinct opinion that he's happier if you are happy with him. So what has really fascinated me is why the dog allows himself to be trained in a way that almost no other animal does. They really do it for the love of man. And I think that that's why it's so important that we approach training with good tools, number one, and number two, good methodology. First, tools. I know that this particular video is centering a little bit more than anything else on the e-collar, because as Larry Crone likes to say, it's such a misunderstood tool, and he's 100% right about that. It's not about buying the right e-collar only. I mean, that is probably the first and most important step. And the reason for that is, as the monks and I say in our book, The Art of Training Your Dog, if you look on, let's say, Amazon, and you type in e-collar, or worse yet, you type in shock collar, which is the old nomenclature for crappy collars, you're gonna get thousands of hits. And 98.9% of those hits are crap. They're e-collars that you couldn't really use on your worst enemy, or you shouldn't. So there's only a few good e-collars, and that's a subject for a future video. But the first thing you need is you need a good e-collar, and then after that, the critical thing is you need good methodology. And I would say that's where my book comes in. Really, it's very important to have the right tools, the right methodology. So I'll be talking lots and more about methodology in the future. But more than anything else, what you really need is a good connection to the dog, okay? And a lot of people worry that they're gonna mess their dogs up with an e-collar, and I feel like those are likely to be the best owners. If you're worried, gee, I might mess up my dog, well, I think you are much better positioned to learn good methodology in dog training versus somebody who just recklessly says, I need this problem to stop, and I'm gonna hammer the dog into submission. Can the e-collar be used as a hammer? Absolutely. But it is the worst use of the tool. I don't recommend it at all. Generally speaking, the people who use the e-collar on high in such a way as to disturb the dog, well, the reality is you are not good people, all right? I'm talking to the rest of you, those who love your dog and are probably actually a little bit more nervous that you're gonna upset your dog. You are the best kind of dog trainers in the world. You make the best trainers, and that is because what you're looking for is subtlety. I'm going to conclude on this point, and we will get a lot deeper into the use of e-collars, methodology, and the emotion of dog training in future videos. But I think the point that I want to make right now is the e-collar is best used at a point where it is just above the threshold of perception. If the e-collar is just under the threshold of perception, the dog isn't going to feel it. You know, if a fly lands on your jacket, you're not going to feel it. If a fly lands on your leg and you're busy, you're not going to feel it. But if you're drinking tea, Earl Grey, and reading poetry, Lord Tennyson, and a fly lands on your leg, you're so calm that you're probably going to actually notice the sensation of even a fly landing on your leg. So that's the threshold of perception, where you can and can't feel a thing. We want to set the e-collar just a millimeter above that point, so that a tiny tick of electricity or sensation from the e-collar is noticeable. But the reality is, just because a sensation is noticeable doesn't mean that it's important or that it will register a response. See, I got a little itch here. Well, it was itching me earlier and I didn't feel the necessity to respond to it, but it just got to the point where I needed to. Threshold of perception. It exceeded my threshold of perception. I'm wearing glasses, a cap, I'm sitting in a chair, so I feel pressure on my body from all of those things, but it's irrelevant. I really don't need to respond or do anything about it, on the one hand. On the other hand, if we can teach the dog that a tiny little tap from an e-collar, which is so light that although he can detect it, he has no need to advertise that he detects it. He has no need to respond to it. But if we can teach him, but there's reward in responding to that tiny little sensation. If we can teach that to the dog, we can train a dog, and we can train a dog to do damn near anything. Look, I'm Marc Goldberg. I write books with the Monks of New Skete, and I train dogs. I do consultations worldwide by Zoom. And if you're local to me, you can learn more about me at chicagodogtrainer.com. Otherwise, marcgoldbergdogtrainer.com. I look forward to talking to you in new videos. Read my book. I think you'll really like it in terms of learning how to train dogs with an e-collar. Peace.